Hi guys. So in this little video, I'm going to talk very briefly about heterotrophic levels and the transfer of energy within ecosystems. Right? So when we're talking about heterotrophy, we're talking about things eating one another. Right? Pretty straightforward. There are two groups of organisms when we talk about heterotrophic groupings. Right? So we have producers. And now producers are things that we think of as being able to make their own food. Right? What they can really do is they can harness free energy that's available in the environment around them, and they can use that free energy to create storage molecules like carbohydrates out of inorganic materials from the environment. And so the main source of producer on this planet currently are photosynthetic organisms, things that take energy from the sun, use that energy to create sugars, glucose primarily. Now, most of the photosynthetic producers that we think of are plants, but there's also algae, seaweeds floating around the oceans and in fresh waters, and there are some photosynthetic bacteria as well. There is another group of producers who use chemosynthesis instead of photosynthesis. So if they are in a place like down at the bottom of the ocean, where they are the hydrothermic vents, right, there's a lot of heat energy coming out of that. There's a lot of inorganic materials coming out of those vents. And so there are some small ancient organisms that can use that heat energy to generate storage molecules instead. Right? But by and large, we're talking about photosynthesis for producers. Yeah. The other group is consumers, and those are organisms that cannot produce their own food molecules. They have to eat other organisms to acquire that energy. So, whenever we are talking about the transfer of energy from one organism to the other through the process of consumption, through the process of being eaten, there is a great amount of energy loss from one group to the next. Right? Most of the energy is lost. So if a producer were to create 200 kilojoules, right, so I got some grass, it makes 200 kilojoules, that's a measurement of energy, worth of molecule foody stuff. Right? If that bunny, which is called a primary consumer, the first level of consumer, comes along and eats that grass, right, that bunny is only going to get about 10% of that available energy. And so only about 20 kilojoules is going to make it to that bunny. And so energy is lost through activity, whether it be metabolic activity within the organism that is using the energy, right? Or it's actually doing, hopping around stuff. Right? Energy is lost through that. Energy is also lost through waste, right? So if that bunny eats that grass, that bunny's not going to eat all of the grass. It's not going to eat 100% of that grass. There's going to be some grass trash, some little grass crumbs that get away. And when that bunny is processing that grass, breaking down that grass, digesting that grass, turning that grass into other usable energy forms within the bunny itself, that requires energy. Right? So there's energy lost there. A lot of that energy is lost through heat. Right? Heat is a big waste of energy. So most energy is lost, right? 90% of the energy is lost. Only 10% gets to the next level. Yeah. The organism that comes along and then eats that bunny is called a secondary consumer, right? So maybe it's a coyote. A coyote comes along, eats up that bunny. That coyote is only going to get 2 kilojoules from that original 200, right? So I've lost another 90%. That coyote is only getting 10% of whatever the bunny got, and the bunny only got 10% of whatever the plant made. Right? And so now I'm at that coyote level, right? Something is going to come along and eat that coyote. The thing that eats a secondary consumer is called a tertiary consumer. Tertiary, tertiary. That means 30, right? Not 30, but third. E. Right? So they're the third group. Right? And now they're all the way down to 0.2 kilojoules, barely any left. Right? So every time I move up a level, I'm only getting about 10% of whatever the previous level had. Most of the energy is lost. And that's just the nature of the game. Right? And due to this fact, you will always have far less top level consumers than you will have producers, right? There's always going to be way more producers than there are top level consumers because there's just a lot more energy available at the production level. Right? So you can have a lot more. Right? So to support those top level producers, you have to kill a whole bunch of producers. You have to kill a whole bunch of primary consumers. You have to kill a whole bunch of secondary consumers to support those tertiary consumers and those quaternary consumers who are above them. Right? And it just goes all around. Okay, cool. That's it. Bye.